So it is now time for stakeholders to compromise towards real change. A change under the name of today's meeting: better places to live, better places to visit. Mr. Dimo Stoyanov is going to moderate this session. He's an expert on Committee of the Regions. Please welcome him on stage, please. The panel discussion will comprise Mr. Dieter Hardt-Stremayr, President of the European Cities Marketing, Mr. Tim Verhaast, responsible for policy strategy of the European Cities Association, Mr. Eduardo Santander, Executive Director of the European Travel Commission, Mr. Pete Jaspat, as Coordinator of the European Heritage Alliance 3.3, and Mrs. Girma Anushkevichute, expert on the DG GROW European Commission Tourism Unit. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. It's the time after lunch, so I hope you stay with us and please bear with us. We'll try to be interesting. We will start with a video that is very nice. It will show the human tower, that is the famous tradition here in Catalonia. And we have also a surprise. We have also a surprise because the panelists will make one at the end of the session. As you can see, this video perfectly reflects how the Catalan tradition of the Castellers transmits the values of joint commitment, efforts, common goals, and values. And these are the things we're talking about today, and the same values we're trying to highlight during today's event, and what we'll try to address through the session on engaging stakeholders. Please allow me to invite Jose Luis Maestro, Director of Tourism for Galicia region and NECSTouR Working Group Leader for Cultural Tourism and Sustainability. He will present to us the Declaration of Barcelona. Jose Luis.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. It's an honor and responsibility for me to present the Declaration of Barcelona. Very nice name, Barcelona, and the title, Better Places to Live, Better Places to Visit. I think it means a lot. Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you to the Catalan government for organizing so well this meeting, and for the elaboration of this declaration. I would like to say thank you to all the partners in NECSTouR, all other partners, stakeholders from different associations, especially the Secretariat of NECSTouR, Sandra de Puig. She was really involved and she was working a lot. So I would like to say thank you because they deserve. I think this declaration is connected a lot with all the interventions during this morning. So I think we did a good job, I suppose. I will explain the content. Well, in front of the declaration, we would like to answer some questions. But the first one is why NECSTouR is doing this declaration. NECSTouR is an association for competitive and sustainable tourism. So in front of the 2018 European Year of Cultural Heritage, we have a role and we have to provide to our contribution to the year. Right. So I'm going to explain the structure of the declaration, which is at the beginning is the first part. We recognize before declarations from different institutions because we do not want to repeat. We want to give something else. So our document is recognizing that other declarations. I would like to mention the UNESCO, the World Tourism Organization, United Nations, ICOMOS, Europa Nostra, or the European Commissions. All of them have different declarations. We recognize at the beginning of this document. Then we have the second part is the considerations. So there is a context, a scenario, and we recognize and then we act, we propose. The third part is what we propose, principles and action plan and recommendations. So we consider the goal of this declaration is to establish a set of principles and recommendations to foster the synergies between tourism and cultural stakeholders. Tourism and cultural heritage stakeholders need to be at the center of the discussion. And we have to orient our declaration to different stakeholders. I mean, not only the public administration, but the civil society, the private sector, academics, expert, research, host community, and tourists. They should be involved, not only administration, not only private sector. Tourism and cultural heritage should be, we are working for a strategy for social cohesion, not only to improve tourism, to make it sustainable. It means much more. We have a responsibility in front of the society. That is part of our values. Cultural heritage is in the essence of the territory. We were talking about, in this morning, the General Secretary for Tourism of Spain, she was talking about intangible heritage. Each time is more and more important for tourism. intangible heritage. Well, we are facing with several challenges where destinations are confronted with situations of saturated areas, authenticity, local community and social behavior, and vandalization, for example. But we have opportunities in cooperation mainly. So, we call for the implementation of 5 key principles to ensure the sustainability of cultural heritage and its territory and destination, to generate a beneficial balance between the culture and host community and the tourist. These are the 5 principles, and I'm going to explain each one, and I'm going to propose a call and recommendations. The first one is smart and inclusive governance, and we call to integrate a multi-stakeholders and participatory approach in the decision-making process. How? Developing a stakeholder forum with all the stakeholders, the cultural, administrations, private, civil society, expert, research, local communities. We propose to look for a community empowerment and inclusion. They should be in the decision. We propose to establish a joint strategy and action plan based in this principle and in the principle of cooperation. We call to use the market intelligence and data analysis, market intelligence. We call for invest smartly, and we have to talk about tourist tax, for example. We have to ensure shared benefit of initiatives for the residents, but for the travelers. We call for, we propose to raise awareness of visitors on the need to contribute to heritage maintenance because they are responsible for that heritage maintenance. We call to create a resilient destination business and host communities. And we propose to promote the capacity building because we have to adapt quickly to a rapidly changing market. We have to establish the communication plans for citizens and tourism because we have in front of us very important challenge as the climate effects or terrorist attacks. So we have to adapt quickly. The second principle is generate the sense of place and pride. And we propose, we call to add value to the tangible and intangible cultural heritage. We have to encourage the storytelling of the destinations. We have to develop synergies in between tourism and creative industry. Not only the culture, the creative industry, the industry. We have to involve citizens, destinations, to make it accessible for all, especially for that people with special needs. We call for foster mindset change, raising awareness among the tourists about the impact of their actions in the host community, and taking the and learning from the place they are visiting. We call for bet on creativity, and we propose to innovative product developments. Sorry. We think this is a very important role of the ICTs, especially in the social media. We call for keep the equilibrium between the uses and the users of cultural heritage. And maybe we have to establish limit for make it accessible some sensible places. I think this is a very controversial decision, but we have to establish limits. The third principle is the holistic vision, marketing, promotion, and preservation. And we call for develop cross-cutting approach, cross-cultural marketing. We call for target social and cultural value creation. And we propose to show hidden heritage, to encourage experience based in slow tourism, and incorporate the corporate social responsibility. We call to promote to preserve, incentivize the transition of a traditional tourism boards to educational tourism centers. Quite difficult, but I would like to repeat, educational tourism centers is really difficult, but it's what we propose as, well, utopia. The fourth principle is the balance between the place, the people, and the business. And we propose to measure, to manage. The carrying capacity should measure using the following dimensions: environmental, economic, sociocultural, but also the residents' perception, because sometimes it's more important what the tourists and the citizens feel rather than the figures. And we have to measure the return of investment. We propose innovative in tourism and performance indicators, going beyond the usual quantitative figures into qualitative one. We call for limit when we need, establish limitations to certain areas, and the fifth principle is connect from people to people. Strengthen the intercultural dialogue between the temporary and permanent residents. We like this word, temporary residents. Tourists are residents as the rest. I mean, they have the same rights as persons and citizens. And we encourage for learning the creative experience with an active participation, and we call for exploit the positive potential of the new players, social media and digital platforms. I would like to include that we have to work for young people because we have to invest in the future. Well, these are the 5 principles, different proposals. As I say at the beginning, it's not only a proposal for industry, tourist industry and cultural industry, but a strategy for social cohesion. And what we propose with this declaration, this is the main contribution of NECSTouR for the present year. And we propose this document as an open and alive document to work with it and to improve it, to upgrade. So during this year, we will have different meetings and we will work with this document. It's not the final result. Maybe it's the beginning or maybe a milestone to work with it. And we would like to propose as a practical document, the different administrations, different private companies, everybody can use it. How? We propose to include an access with practical good practice, and we can use it, and we can share different good practices. Well, I think we learned a lot in this morning, and well, this is the proposal of NECSTouR, and that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, indeed, better places to live, better places to visit. I think you cannot sum it up in a better way. Indeed, it is very important to see how we make the follow-up on this declaration, because it is actually what we want to do, to set the beginning and then to build on this. But you know, tourism is also a soft policy, so how do you govern it, how do you direct it? And we'll try to make our discussion around it. Because, you know, national governments, they have their strategies, but often it is decided on industry level, on local and regional level. So this will be more or less the topic of our discussion today. And my first question is to Dieter. What should be the role of DMOs here?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, since I'm sitting in here since this morning, I'm getting more and more nervous. Because what we hear all day long is there is 5 principles, and then there are 10 rules, and there's 3 other principles and 5 points we should consider. And those DMOs over there, whoever that is and what they do, they should change. And I represent some 100 DMOs of all of Europe. And every single DMO has a different role to play in the different city, in a different situation, and still there is a lot of it comparable. And the good thing is, if we change, we don't change the acronym, we stay a DMO, we are just a destination marketing, not any longer, but the destination management organization, maybe. But what's left over there to manage for us? When you look at the change out there on the market. In the good old days, we controlled our brand, because what we said, what we published, that was out there on the market and that was set. That's over. There's new markets out there, there is new media out there, there's social media out there. They took over control. And if we promote our city or not, we are not saying that loudly, but it does not make such a big difference anymore. Since when visitors come to places, they like it, they post it, they Facebook it, they Twitter it, they whatever do it, and people keep coming. And what sort of control do we have? We as DMOs, we don't own hotels usually. What we own is maybe our tourist information center, we open it up or we close it down, but the truth is we go out on the street because the average traveler doesn't need us anymore in a way we are needed before. So our connectivity to the visitor is by far not as intensive as it was before. So if you want or not, our role has changed already, because our classical field of activities that has gone away. And when you look at cities where the balance, that's what I learned today, where the balance is not there any longer, and there is the harbor, they want to make business, and then there's the airport, they want to make business too, and there's the big restaurant, they want to make business, and the hoteliers, they want to have a business as well. So what do we control? Should we send them somewhere else, send them away? They go where their friends went and where their friends liked it. And we are in an open continent, and traveling has no limits. And if I want to go to Venice, who in this room will stop me? There was no one around here in Barcelona stopping me when I said I want to go to Barcelona. And the other side of the truth is, among the 100 and more destinations that I can represent within European cities marketing, there are still, I would say, between 80 and 90% of them who still want to have more business. Not every single day, but most of the days during a year. And there is some where the balance is not all right any longer. And that's the challenge for the change as well, because they need a different change than the others who are still uprising and coming. And there is still many city destinations also in all of Europe that will be destinations of the future that are not on the map yet, that are not so well connected yet. And we are still in the growth business, and no other part besides the cruise companies maybe, but no other part of worldwide tourism grew in such a high speed than the city tourism grew. And the secret behind it is whatever you do invest in a city, you do the investment for the citizens and for the visitors. And this is the main difference to sea resource, to mountain resource, to lake resource and things like that. So the quality of living in the cities got better and better over the past. And the biggest change, most likely, the biggest change that has to be implemented is what is success? So far, you have been successful when the bad night figures went up and up and up and up, what is stupid. But this was the only thing that was measured worldwide, European-wide, and that was compared, and it was plus 1%, it was a sensation, it was minus, it was a disaster. And most likely, one of the new measurements that we do need is the, what is it called? Life Quality Index, maybe something like that. Hard to measure, but that's what you do need the visitors for, because the first ones who do avoid their own city when there is too much pressure on the city are the citizens. And when the citizens and the inhabitants go away, then sooner or later, maybe people who visit there think, well, that's not the place that I had in mind. So change is going on, and what I'm saying today is old and old-fashioned maybe in 12 months' time, because things are happening really quick out there.
Thank you very much. So going over to Tim, the industry, we know environmental sustainability has been an issue for a long time. A lot has been done. Now, how do we approach social, cultural sustainability, economic sustainability?
How long have you got? I think just picking up on what Dieter said, if you've come to me for revelation this afternoon, you're not going to get much, but it is worth perhaps refreshing our minds of some sort of basic truths. We're now predominantly an urban population worldwide. More people live in cities than anywhere else. On the whole, that's where wealth generation happens. So more people who live in cities can afford to travel. And cities are increasingly where they visit. So, like it or not, the economic nature of global development makes it more likely that there will be more urban tourism. So I absolutely agree with what we heard this morning, that this is primarily a management opportunity. It shouldn't be seen as some kind of disease we're trying to manage. It should be seen as something which, done well, is positive. You all hear the usual statistics about the value of tourism from the point of view of jobs and so forth. I won't repeat all of them here. But I think the concern about the relationship between the visitors and the industry that bring people and market overseas, the local residents, and the whole ecosystem of the supply chain in destination that wishes to serve not only visitors, but the people who live here. And I do reject this distinction between sort of tourists go somewhere and locals go somewhere else. You know, as we heard various people say this morning, on the whole, we ought to be offering services which are scalable by all means, so it works with industry, but very much the kind of service that people who live here might enjoy. And I think increasingly that's a strong trend. But if we're talking about this triangular relationship, preserving a sense of place, the culture, managing growth intelligently, I think how you talk to the local community is essential. And there's one or two good practices out there. We had a little test ourselves, just to give you an example, in Florence a couple of summers ago, where we partnered with the Centro Studi Turistici, La Nazione, local newspaper, the City Hall, and a local non-profit called Life Beyond Tourism. And the idea was to survey the residents to try and find out two things, really. First thing, what do they know about tourism? And the second thing was, what do they think about it, and how do they perceive the impact of it? And the knowledge questions were around, do you have any idea how long people stay generally? You know, what's the pattern of tourism, if you like? And most people are not necessarily directly involved, but they're one or two steps away from the actual business of the visitor economy, if you like. The impact was, you know, how does it affect you? What choices do you make? And we've heard people say, well, maybe when it's really busy in the summer, I avoid the middle of town. Or, yeah, there's a problem with affordability of privately rented accommodation in town. More permanent residents are moving outside the city. So we asked some future-looking questions, and this is available online at firenzerisponde.it, if you want to have a look. One of the closing questions was, well, are you okay if it grows? If there are more tourists, what do you think? And the clearest response from the whole survey was, we are okay with growth if there is a plan. And if there's not a plan, uncertainty, people are scared they're losing their city. So it's the job of policymakers to provide intelligent forum for gathering feedback, a barometer that's not just that was a test for us. We don't do this for a living. We'd like to collaborate with destinations to do more of it. But it was a very, very good test to see that local sentiment is really to do with certainty. You know, if you know where you're going, you can have a view. If you don't know where you're going and you're scared about the rate of change that's driven by technology, that's driven by market forces, as opposed to something that feels a little bit more local and a bit more acceptable, then you're going to be nervous. So I think, number one, management is about reassurance and really communicating better. As you say, Dieter, what does success look like? Because, by the way, it will look different than today, because cities change. That's their defining feature. They will continue to change. Who can afford to live here will change as different professions prosper and fade. So I think getting people comfortable with change is important, but respecting that it's really the local community that holds the decision making. You know, you can decide whether or not a cruise ship goes down the Giudecca Canal in Venice. That is a local competence. You can decide whether or not to build a cruise terminal. You can decide how to gather more revenue from the visitor economy, whether you call it a tax or whether you call it a heritage contribution when you book a theatre ticket in London. You know, that's for a local community to figure out. And I think last point just on industry is, you know, companies are not interested in selling something to people who then arrive in a destination and people think they're a plague, right? Companies want their customers to go somewhere and enjoy it and not be seen as the enemy or an intruder. So very much it's the case that industry wants to have a collaborative relationship. We want to help, okay? We're not here to make trouble. We're here to make money. It's business. That shouldn't be a surprise. But it's very much the case that the more collaborative you are, and think how far ahead industry plans, you know, we want to know what the price of something is going to be in 18 months' time, not next week, so we can plan ahead and budget. So the longer we can forecast and the more we can talk together around the corner of the next few months, 3-5 years ahead, we'll do a much better job. I think I've probably gone over time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, before we go over to Eduardo, I would like to remind you to put your smart hat on and think about very smart questions that you can ask our panelists, of course, before we do the human tower. So, Eduardo.
All right, I'm going to change a little bit the line of conversation and discussion here. I'm trying to be positive. We're exactly harvesting today what we wanted 60 years ago. Europe has been promoted in a way, in a quantity way, and we have the results today. We have a lot of tourists. We have cities which are full. We have business making a lot of money, some less, but we have some side problems. Undoubtedly, tourism is a force for good and wealth. This is, I think, completely out of discussion. Now, we have a declaration here, which is very valid, but it responds to a very, very old principle, which is the action-reaction. We didn't take action. We are reacting right now to something that we created, all of us. When we talk about over-tourism, overcrowding destinations, there is this ranking list that I'm always surprised to see: Venice, Barcelona, Rome, Amsterdam. I always remember someone telling, it's not it's not bad or good that they are telling that about you. The most important thing is that they are talking about you. Because it happens to be that 8 out of 10 places in Europe are the best places to live in the world. And in that also dark ranking list of overcrowded places, some of the cities are also mentioned. So there is a little bit of a disbalance there. And nobody talks about Thailand, not about New York, Bali, Hong Kong, places which obviously have also their issues. Why is that? Because people are looking into Europe. Europe created tourism more than a century ago. We at ETC started doing promotion of Europe in third market 70 years already ago. And people are looking at Europe to find solutions. That's the reason people are talking about Barcelona, Venice, Paris, and Amsterdam, because they know the solution should and will come from us. Now, what I'm trying to express here is my big concern about our negativeness about the whole thing that places are really being worse places to live and we're not engaging with community. That is partially true, but it's not the fully truth. I see a lot of people engaging with tourism. I come from this country, and I know that this country without tourism would be in a completely misery. I come from the south of Spain, where it's even worse. I mean, at least Catalonia has more industry, but in Andalusia, the biggest industry is definitely tourism. And this is creating still a lot of wealth. Now, if it's a matter of management, as a previous speaker was doing, okay, now we have to explore how are we going to change our approach. Because I always think, when I woke up this morning with my beautiful 9-month-old daughter, I thought about what kind of future is she going to have? Is she going to be a tourist, or is she going to... So most probably my daughter will be working for an Asian company, and it will be surrounded by Asian people, most probably from China. Because what we need to approach is that the market mix now is so different, and we are not ready for that. And this is what we also need to change. We try to approach new markets with a very old, not only approach, but also strategy, which is we're trying to sell the same thing to the very different profiles and so on. China, I'm mentioning that because it's also the EU-China Tourism Year 2018, which coincides with the Year of Cultural Heritage. It's not a bad coincidence. Some people from the cultural heritage will say, oh, no more Chinese to my sites, preservation, don't touch them, don't leave them only for us. That's the wrong approach. I think Chinese people will be exactly the museum visitors of the future, it will be the hikers of the future, you will find skiers from China, and we're not ready for them. Why is that? Because we have an inherent incapacity of working together. We at Europe, we are famous, for fighting against each other instead of collaborating. What can we do against that? We have some examples. We have put in place now a joint promotion platform where many of the regions present in the room, including Catalonia, as one of the leaders, where we are trying also to engage. It's not about now a membership approach, you need to gather as a tourism board, as a tourism entity, or a DMO. monitoring. You need to cooperate, and cooperate not only with your classic members, if there are countries, there are companies like private sector. It's more you have to open the fund to everybody here. My point is pretty easy. I mean, the industry has to be more transparent and to earn trust, because tourism is very bad explained. I keep struggling explaining to my mom what I'm doing every day. So imagine, to the farther public, I think people think they know about tourism. It's so transversal that they still not understand what is this about, starting from the policymakers, but also with the civil society, where everybody says, do you know what tourism is? And everybody says, of course I do. I go to the beach, or I go to the mountain and so on. But I would not say, I know the chemistry industry because I take an aspirin, one day, or, every second day or whatever. And this is happening. There is a lot of misunderstanding, and there is a little also of intoxication of other sectors where we exactly, because we are not offering, for instance, in Brussels, the transportation system, or everything that has to do with transport is so well organized that it makes so much shadow what we are doing in little step at the tourism level, that it exactly reflects what the problem is, that we don't have still this kind of critical mass to leave a footprint in when it comes to decision-making process. Last but not least, I think this has to be a pedagogic process. I mean, we have to educate people, which still, we don't know many things of the future of tourism, although we have tons of market research, we have UNWTO producing excellent data, we heard about, where are we going? We know it, and this we can predict and we can adapt. Many things we don't know. We don't know how it's going to be the security circumstances, terrorism and so on, but we have to be resilient, and that can be taught, can be applied, and you can be educated. Second, the promotional mission. I think Europe has a problem because we are everything but nothing at the same time. When you go to United States, you normally know what you are wanting to do. You want to do national parks, you want to do New York, you want to do LA, you want to do this place. Whereas Europe stays for everything. You can do incredible things here, but it's a conglomerate. So we still have to define where we are. And our approach now, and this is, I'm running out of time, we have to change that approach from a market-oriented promotion campaigns to a passions group. This is where we are going, and also in third markets. And last but not least is the contribution of tourism. I think we cannot be more proud of what tourism is doing also for the society as such. I mean, I'm 38 years old. I lived in Austria for a long time. I lived in Germany for a good time. I lived in the United States for a good time. And it always felt in Europe at home, no matter where. Whereas in the United States, it was different. And it has to do, and this declaration has to do also in one of their points, which is the connecting people. It's about a priority now. We need to not only connect people, but really come back to our roots of European citizenship. And it goes beyond tourism, but if tourism can become the glue for more cohesion, I think we should work more hard. And I would like to finish saying that my father says always, no te preocupes, ocúpate, which literally means don't worry about things, because if things have a problem, there will be a solution. If they don't have a problem, you don't need to worry. But it's not important to worry, but to handle with it. And this is exactly what we have to do with the problem that we have in Better Place to Live, Better Place to Visit. That the declaration offers finally actions, concrete actions, and this where every stakeholder from both sides, public and private, need to learn to work together. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Pete.
Yeah.
The role of cultural tourism regarding the objectives of the declaration and the targets.
I must say, after these words by Eduardo, this is really spoken from the heart. So that's what I have the feeling, say, Eduardo, okay, you said it. No, this is really what I'll try to say it in another way. But let's say for us, this declaration is an important instrument. And how do how do I frame this? We had already, as Europa Nostra, ourselves, we had a declaration in Malta on tourism, so at 2006. And now we came to this year of European Year Cultural Heritage, and we say, oh, that's the moment after 12 years, as you have said also, have we done something, where are we? We should make a new one. And it happened that we heard that NECSTouR was thinking and on a declaration. We have been sitting together, so ETC, ECTN, Europa Nostra, and said, okay, we are not going to do over what others are doing, can't we join forces? I think that's a basic idea that has to happen. And we have also presented this to the European Heritage Alliance, these 48 organizations. And then we have said, and that's the idea you have heard, this is a declaration prepared here, that's not ready, that's not finalized, but it's a working document. Let's go on. And you have seen, when you saw the schedule, we come, ETC and Europa Nostra, we come back on this during the Heritage Summit we are going to organize in Berlin. So I just want to make a small interval for this. In Berlin, we are going to organize a Cultural Heritage Summit on the 20th and to the 22nd of June. And we do this together, the heritage sector. Why a summit? Because you have all these political summits. Let's make one on cultural heritage and come to certain commitments, because we want the policy people to be there. Ministers, even presidents probably, but on a high level. And we hope that with this document, then we get firm commitments. I always hear you also saying, yes, what have we done? When you know that the Parliament has decided, European Parliament, on the year of cultural heritage last year. One article says, textually, cultural heritage is not a cost, but an investment. It stands there. Then I say, put your money where your mouth is. How is it possible that afterwards there is no follow-up for what are we going to do for this cultural heritage? Because, and now I come to what Eduardo was saying so brightly, one of the powers of the values of cultural heritage is this power to come together, this mutual exchange, this cohesion. And that's Europe at the moment. We are just don't know in which way we are going. We are looking around, and our policy people and at the Commission and the national authorities, they look for their own security, and so there's no real leadership. But I think that cultural heritage is such a value in itself that we should profit of this occasion to live together, to meet each other, to learn each other, trans-border. And that was the reason why we were so happy that we are doing this together. Second, I heard, because you saying at a certain moment, the legislator. Of course, there has to be rules, there has to be a plan. There you are right, there has to be a plan. But I think let's not wait for the legislators. We can push them, can force them, but we have to do it ourselves. And therefore I was happy at what you have been speaking about, we. So this is something we, the civil society, together with the industry, together with the private persons, because that's something, for instance, if we think about the whole private world around cultural heritage, the owners and so on, this is such an important part of the world. Also the private owners who use their houses for Airbnb and so on, they have also a part of responsibility. How do we do this? How can we arrange this? And finally, and that's the third thing, I think that speaking now from the civil society and and I don't only speak about organizations, but we have been talking very clearly about these local initiatives. So the communities who are claiming for participation, who want to be included in decisions, I think we have to look also how we fund this. There is this problem of the taxes on tourism What are they used for? How are they redistributed? When I see in Bruges for the musea, you go to a museum and you pay your ticket and you pay €1 extra for the museum. Nobody is complaining. So I think if people know how taxes are used, how the financing is reused, so as we say for heritage, you need adaptive reuse. I think also for whole our finance system for cultural heritage has to be looked at. That just for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before giving the word to my dear colleague Girma, I would like to ask you, are there any questions from the audience at this point? All right. So Girma,
I have a question. I have a question.
But you're not
please.
audience.
How many of you have spent money since you are in Barcelona? It's not even half of the room. I haven't spent €1 since I'm here. So, and my carbon print of my visit here is big, because I'm coming in and out. I took a taxi or, like a thing. I'm going back again. So let's focus, even, people visiting every city, every single tourist count. Because even the cruise, the hated cruise tourists and so on, that they spend more than me, for instance. So let's try to make a little bit our problems relative, because what we have here is a luxury problem of a very well-developed society and with a very targeted objective that we had years ago and that we have accomplished. That the problem is that we cannot deal with the outcome of it. And this is the sad part of the story, that now it seems that there is a sense of we are late, but we're not. I mean, come on, we can solve this together.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It's all about inclusiveness, indeed, and this is one of the targets of the declaration, and being optimistic, I think. And many will ask, where's the role of the European Union and what's the European Commission doing? At this point, I would like to say, probably most of you know that this is not a common policy of the European Union, so it's a kind of a soft policy. Nevertheless, European Commission, a major player, a lot of initiatives. So what are you currently doing? What will you be doing? Please.
Thank you. First of all, I'm happy to contribute to the gender balance on this panel. And okay. So let me clarify that at European Commission, our role is to contribute and to support the actions taken at regional, national, and local level in tourism. And of course, we acknowledge the role of culture, the role of cultural heritage assets in tourism experiences. So we do mainstream cultural and sustainable tourism in many of our policy actions, and I have selected the 3 examples of the initiatives, also demonstrating how with these initiatives, we already contribute to the declaration principles. So for example, we are helping the European tourism industry to diversify and modernize their tourism offers. And in this regard, we support and co-fund transnational tourism projects, which are focused based on cultural heritage and of course have a European dimension. Whatever we do, of course, has to have a European added value. So here we co-fund many cultural routes. So we give seed money to the projects which otherwise would be very successful at local level, but becoming a European project, we have a different dimension and much more benefit. So we diversify tourism offer and create public and private partnerships. Usually we have partners from at least 5 countries joining these projects. And we have a few successful ones in Spain, like St. James route, which is a pilgrimage route, or Greenways. It's a project built on unused how do you call them, railways, exactly, so for bikers and hikers. So from, and here I would like to make an announcement that this year we will have a new call for proposals. So for these kind of partnerships, so if you are interested, the focus this year will be on making synergies between tourism and cultural and creative industries. So we would be looking for, again, a partnership of let's say, 8 to 10 partners. And this way we, again, see a benefit of, in these projects, we look for synergies. I mean, the creative industries can bring augmented reality solutions, let's say, to enhance tourism products. So more, let's say here we seek for innovation, for the use of the technologies. And so if you're interested, check our website, the European Commission website next month. So, and and join our project. Then I would like to mention another initiative where we seek to encourage innovation of tourism destinations. So last week we launched the competition for the European Capital of Smart Tourism 2019. And the winner of this capital should be excellent in accessibility, sustainability, digitalization, and cultural and creative heritage. So I think Barcelona is very potential, can be a potential winner. So there is one eligibility criterion, important one, is that the cities have to have at least 100,000 inhabitants. And we will, of course, promote these cities. We will provide them with an expert working on their promotional campaigns. There will be a lot of benefits. So just to encourage your cities to participate in this initiative. And I personally have a project very close to my heart, which is European Destinations of Excellence. It's one of our projects which promotes sustainable tourism in small, non-traditional emerging destinations. And with this project, we contribute to dealing these issues that have been mentioned, the whole day-to-day seasonality, decongesting overcrowded destinations. So we try to redirect the tourists to these small destinations. And in Spain, you have at least 8 of them, because this competition we run already since 2007. Just to mention this year's winner, which was on cultural tourism. It's the land of Saint Ignatius in Spanish. How do you say that, Eduardo? The land of Saint Ignatius.
San Ignacio.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's it, as simple as that. So these destinations are perfect examples because they involve local communities and they offer authentic products. So what you discussed today, actually, they do provide all these experiences. So I would encourage, again, you to visit them. So these are called Eden destinations. You will find the whole website on our, the whole section of our website dedicated to this. And these are inspiring stories. And the next edition, if you're interested, there will be on health and well-being tourism. So this would be very briefly what we do linked to cultural and sustainable tourism.
Thank you so much. Pete, I know you have a lot in the pipeline.
Yeah, so I have something in the pipeline, particularly as it is something that this morning I stopped my presentation and there were still 2 slides behind. So I forgot just by nervous of being too quick. And this is something that, as you said, I am going to announce something. That's what we have to announce also. And this is, working together. We wanted for this year, this declaration, we do it together. We had also an award. We have these awards I have been telling you about, the awards, European Union Prize, Europa Nostra, for conservation, for research, for dedicated service, and for awareness raising. We wanted to make something specific in this year. But again, instead of making a new one, ECTN has already 4 years organized an award for excellence in destination. So for smaller awards, because you are speaking cities about 100,000 and more, no, we have launched this year a special edition for cultural heritage as an asset for responsible and sustainable tourism. And this award is clearly, it's about given for achievements by cultural tourist attractions, destinations, which have produced significant results related to enhancing visitor experience while respecting traditions and involving local communities. That's what we have been speaking about all day here. And it's in 7 heritage-related items: religious and pilgrimage, coastal and maritime, cultural landscapes, industrial and military, historic houses, villages and cities, transnational thematic products, and contributions by cultural and creative industries. One of these 7, you have to call is open till the 1st of July, and this is ETC, ECTN, NECSTouR, and Europa Nostra who are backing this. I wanted to just, and another thing, the last slide I was not showing was, people have asking me, Europa Nostra, where do you find them? www.europanostra.org. That was on the last slide, so where you can get in touch with us.
All right, thanks a lot. Dieter?
Well, I would like to add one thing that was mentioned today quite sometimes, that cities especially and our touristic product is not only consisting out of beach and mountains and streets and monuments and sites, it's about people.
Yeah.
And we heard different examples how to include the citizens of a place to the touristic product, like meet the inhabitants. That sounds a little bit like meet the natives. That sounds like you go somewhere and you meet the original tribes and have dinner together with them. I'm not sure if this is the best idea. It's a great idea, but I'm not sure if it's the best idea. And many cities are also compared to theme parks. Look at Disneyland, how professional they're organized. Make your city like a theme park. I guess that's the wrong approach. This is not why you go to places, because you go to different places to meet different people. And in some country, which is a neighbor country of Spain and the capital is Paris, people, we are not so friendly to visitors for some time. That has changed meanwhile. But to meet them and to deal with them, that was part of an adventurous thing to do. And we shouldn't take that away. And our citizens are not employees of Disneyland. They are part of the product. They share our cities with the visitors, but they are not only there to please them. So we shouldn't abuse them and not try to make professional ambassadors of them. They should be like they are, because this is why we go to different places. So you can have different aspects, and there is no one single right and single wrong. But people do matter. Better places to live, better places to visit.
For me, the whole thing is pure Darwinism. It's not, the strongest that is going to survive, but the most adaptable one.
Yeah.
And here, the tourism industry, or call it sector, call it as you want, needs to change and embrace change, which is the problem. We still think like promoter, marketeers. We have to go to the market, invest money in China and United States, in the other market. This is wrong. People know us already. So our job has to change too, and we have to embrace that change. We have to become managers of our own destinations, which is a difficult job. It's not difficult to spend money in China. It's not difficult to waste money here and there, but it's very difficult, to manage processes in your own destination. This is where the complexity comes, because you have too many actors. You have the local community, but you have also politicians, you have the private sector, and so on and so on and so on. For me, the solution comes like taking responsibility with well-defined commitments on issues, including, for me, and then I'm representing ETC here, sustainability, especially climate change, very, very important one. The improved connectivity, using data, and very important for former marketing, measuring to stay accountable. In the past, we were spending money and say it didn't work out. It worked out, But now, I mean, there's a need to justify expenditure. And there is a need because also the civil society is looking at us like as a threat. And we have to change that perception through a better job. And I think we have the responsibility to do so. I think we should stop saying it should be the local community doing the change, it should be the local government, it should start from us. And I think this declaration is the principle for that. It's what I call an objective without a plan is just a dream. And finally, we have a plan here.
Thank you very much. Tim, do you have any comment?
A couple of very brief
Please.
Very brief comments. I think we need to think how we're understanding origin markets. There's quite a lot of fairly lazy prejudice about, oh, Chinese people like this, Indian people like that. Please make sure you're talking to people who work closely with the markets day to day, because what you think Indians like, it's a very big place. They're not all the same. It's a super diversified market. Please inform yourselves, don't just trade in assumptions. And I think that the last point about culture is make sure we are devising ways of ensuring the local community doesn't feel pushed out. So that's partly to do with make it easier to book and get to not just to 2 or 3 famous places, but other museums which maybe at the moment are only open 2-3 days a week. You know, open more, you will be able to share more. But I think the second the local community feel that their cultural heritage is primarily for the visitors and not for them, then I think you've got a bit of an us and them problem. So make sure your local community is actively enjoying its own cultural heritage assets as well.
Thank you so much. At this point, any comments from the audience or questions? No? Last chance. All right, in this case, please, I would like to ask your applause for the government of Catalonia, Catalonian Tourist Board, NECSTouR, and our panelists today, and the one lady here. Please, give it up.